incredibly iconic voice lines. He's got an Australian accent. I mean, who doesn't love an Australian accent? Seriously, as you saw in my last tier list video, I even have my Siri set to an Australian accent, and part of that I put down to good old Chip Stubbo.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna try and sneak up behind the flood. I'm coming in behind them now, so shush, just be quiet. What the hell are these things? Crikey, look at them! I've never seen anything like this before. If I can just get a little bit closer, maybe I can just prod one and see what it does. I've got to be really quiet now, okay? They look pretty bloody dangerous. Oh, crikey! I've never seen things like this before.
The guy is a legend. If you want to go kind of canon with him, he's pretty much survived everything. I made a video about this a few years ago. If you want to learn the kind of rough lore behind Chip Stubbo, you can go and watch that. But yeah, I absolutely adore Chip Stubbo and the Australian Marines, and I really missed them. I really did miss them. I was kind of hoping Infinite would bring him back. Next up, Cortana, who of course is just going to go, honestly, above Chief in S+ tier. Cortana is the yin to Chief's yang. She's the brains of the Chief Cortana duo. Her story is incredible, saddening, a little bit iffy towards the end with Halo 5, but I loved how she went out finally in Infinite. Her final scene in Infinite where she detonates Zeta Halo and she's just gone after that was, to me, a mostly adequate redemption for what she did in Halo 5 and for her character kind of breaking the fourth wall of it, her character overall. Jen Taylor's performance as Cortana is like nothing short of perfect. It's easily one of the best performances in video game voice acting, or voice acting, full stop if you ask me. I feel like when I'm talking about Chief and Cortana, I don't really need to go into much detail as to why they're both great characters, because we all just kind of know why. And even though she's the brains of the duo, Cortana also has some great one-liners as well, in particular in Halo 2. I gotta say, I think my favorite personification of Cortana was actually H2 Cortana.
You look nice.
Thank you.
Probably Halo 2, closely followed by Halo 4. Halo 4's Cortana was fantastic, but Halo 2, she has so many cool one-liners and little like quirky lines in that I really like.
I saw it too. It looked like a temple. If I were a megalomaniac, and I'm not, that's where I'd be.
This lake couldn't have been formed by volcanic action, which means it was either built this way on purpose or was created by some other cataclysmic event. I'm sorry. Were you trying to kill something?
Halo 2 is definitely her wittiest game, but yeah, overall Cortana is just a superb character. The franchise, she is as much a face of the franchise as Chief is, if you ask me. She's beyond iconic.
I will ask, and you will answer.
All right. Shoot.
Captain's report, February 4th, 2531. 5 years. 5 long years. That's how long it took us to get Harvest back.
Next up, Captain James Cutter. Cutter is also going to go into A tier. Pretty much same, I'd say, on par with Anders. A fantastic stoic leader of the Spirit of Fire. An incredibly decorated naval captain who fought against the Insurrection for years, and then also the Covenant for years, and is still out there fighting the Banished now on the Ark. The guy's a legend. He's a fantastic leader. Leads one of the coolest ships in the entire franchise, if you ask me, the Spirit of Fire. But also he's got a great human side as well that was fleshed out more in Halo Wars 2, with, in particular with Isabel, I thought.
And when you see one old ship, I see home. And that is always worth fighting for.
Ships in Halo have never been my forte, but Captain Cutter is, to me, one of the most iconic naval commanders or naval captains, rather, in the entire franchise, so I'd say a solid A tier. Veronica Dare, Ms. Naval Intelligence, top of A tier. I really liked Dare. Her character throughout ODST was fantastic. I love how close to her chest she kept all the Oni secrets. Like, even with Book, that whole, like, diametric played up with Book was really good, where even though they were kind of an item, kind of not an item, she was still very staunchly Oni and refused to tell him anything about what their real mission was. And then I love the section in Data Hive as well, where you and Dare fight through the drone hive together. And then, like I said in my last tier list video, I think it was, that scene where you see Virgil for the first time, where Dare introduces you to Virgil.
If I'm right, this one has taken the superintendent's data and combined it with its own. Everything we want to know about the Covenant, what they're looking for into the city, is right in here.
Patricia Helfer's voice acting and delivery on those lines as Dare is some of the best voice acting in the entire franchise. I love that scene so much, and it shows that Dare is just so, like, mission-driven above anything else. And she stays that way throughout pretty much her entire storyline in Halo so far. Throughout New Blood and Bad Blood, she's pretty much exactly the same. Of course, her and Buck are married now, but they're still, obviously, Buck's a Spartan 4, Dare's still working for Oni, still very much the same kinds of characters, even throughout all that. Yeah, I really like Dare as a character, and she gets bonus points as well for having a recon helmet, because Halo 3's recon helmet is probably one of my, like, top 3 favorite Halo helmets of all time, and seeing an Oni officer wearing that helmet with, like, non-Mjolnir armor, I think is a really cool aesthetic choice. Next up, we have Dutch. Dutch is going to go into A tier, around the same level, maybe a tiny bit beneath Carter. Dutch is one of my least favourite members of Alpha 9, but because I love all Alpha 9 so much, saying least favourite is not exactly a bad thing. Immediately, Dutch gets bonus points for being named after Dutch from Predator, considering Halo has taken a lot of inspiration from both Alien and Predator in the past. This is just another example of that, and I really like that little sort of reference and hint. And I also love Dutch's character as well. In ODST, I love how he's like one of the gruffer members of Alpha 9, and this cutscene in particular, I'd always smile at.
So, was that a yes or a no? Amen.
And then his characterization throughout New Blood and Bad Blood as well, I did really like. I loved how his character just changed quite strongly after the rookie's death. It really shook Dutch up, to the point where it basically made him retire from the military, and I can't remember what job he went to do, but he met up with Gretchen again, got married to Gretchen, and I can't remember what. For some reason, I'm thinking like an ice road trucker. It wasn't an ice road trucker, but it was something like that he went to do. And then, of course, he ended up joining the military again, becoming a Spot 4. Yeah, Dutch is a great character, and like I said with Buck, I really hope we see more of Alpha 9 soon, with Gretchen included as well. Next up, Emil. Now, this is going to shock some people, maybe not. I love Emil, so Emil is going to go S tier, ever so slight, on par with Buck. Not higher, not lower, on par with Buck at the top of S tier. Personally, Emil is my favourite member of Noble Team since that Spartan Will Rise trailer that came out before Reach came out. That was like a mini documentary that Halsey made of all the members of Noble Team. Emil was my favourite, just like that, instantly, straight off. I know it's like his typical like edgy, like dark, brooding character. He's got a skull on his visor. He loves knives. His armor's black and red. I don't care.
May I?
Don't cut yourself.
Emil's fantastic. He's voiced by the legend Jamie Hector of The Wire, which is a massive plus as is. But I just love his character, how cold and harsh he is in Halo Reach.
In them choppers, shove it.
On your knees, now!
They're not rebels. They're farmers.
I love his response as well when George dies. It's just a very Emil response.
Hey, you made it.
It's a regular family reunion. Keep him. I gave him to you. I'll honor him my own way.
George always said he would never leave Reach.
Oh, the big man was sentimental.
He gave his life thinking he'd just saved the planet. We should all be so lucky.
Considering those two were friends that had a little bit of tension at times, but they were friends.
She needs a full psychiatric workup.
She's not the only one.
Lock it down, both of you.
His armor is, needless to say, iconic at this point. It's one of the staple armor sets of the entire Halo franchise. Is it a bit gimmicky to etch a skull on your visor with your own kukri? Yes, but is it cool as hell? You can't say no. No one can deny that it's cool as hell. It just is. I really like Emil. One of my favorite member of Noble Team, easily. One of my favorite Bungie era characters, to be honest with you. Obviously, we can't get anything new for Emil, but I'd love some like Emil backstory, maybe like in a short book or short novel or short animated short or just something like that, because in Emil's backstory, from what I remember, he loses his brother, who's the last member of his family, in a glassing, and from that moment forward, that's why he hates the Covenant. I mean, obviously, everyone in the UNSC hates the Covenant, but like Emil hates the Covenant because he lost what little was left of his family to them, and so he wants to get his own back, and that's part of why he's so violent and sadistic, which makes sense. But yeah, I love Emil. Emil's so cool, man. I love Emil. Next up, we have John Forge, my favorite member of the Spirit of Fire crew, going at the top there. I love John Forge, honestly. His story in Halo Wars, his ending was very sad. He went out a hero, saving the Spirit of Fire. However, the guy single-handedly brought down an Arbiter, and not just any Arbiter, Ripper Morimi, an Arbiter that had been freed from prison for being so savage. This wasn't just your average Arbiter. This guy was a literal savage, and Forge took him down on his own in what was mostly hand-to-hand combat, may I add, which is fantastic.
And for the record, I would have kicked your ass the first time if the lady hadn't stopped me.
He's got great charisma. I love the scenes where he both saves Anders and also where he tries and fails to save her. He's just an all-round really fun character. That scene at the start of Halo Wars 2 is always quite sad when I think it's Cutter goes up and just looks at his cryo bay with it being empty. Very sad. I miss Forge, but it's cool at least that his daughter's out there, Ryan Forge. She's out there doing quite literally galaxy-changing stuff. I mean, because of her, Guilty Spark has now gone to reseed the precursors, which is wild to think about. I've never actually put that into a sentence before, just thought about it. Because of Ryan Forge, Guilty Spark has gone with the librarian to reseed the precursors in a different galaxy. That was crazy. To say that Forge has left a legacy is quite the understatement. Next up, we have Fred, my tied favourite member of Blue Team. Fred's going to go in S tier, just below Buck. I love Fred, the Knife Master of Blue Team. It's just such a cool trait to have as a character. And so many of the things that he's done in the Expanded Universe with his knives are just so sick. Which is why in Halo 5, I was so disappointed that Blue Team's characters were just so muted and didn't really feel like their Buck counterparts at all. But I was really excited to see Buck do some crazy shit with knives, like he does in The Package, for example, in that Halo Legends short. When he's about to venture that door, there's like a whole army of Covenant coming towards him. He gets his knives out. It's just such a sick scene, and we didn't really get any of that in Halo 5, which really sucked. There's also one thing that I love about him that we've finally seen come to reality. This piece of concept art for Fred for Halo 5 was one of the best pieces of Spartan concept art in Halo full stop. And now that we've got the Morrigan helmet in Halo Infinite, we've kind of seen that come to a reality. We just need ponchos and massive knives now. The next two things we need to be able to fully cosplay that version of Fred. But yeah, I love Fred, the stoic leader of Blue Team alongside Chief, with a fantastic personality, very cool, unique traits. Fred is my tied favourite member of Blue Team. You'll see who he's tied with in a minute. Dr. Catherine Horsey. I feel like Horsey has to go in S+ tier. She is the backbone of everything in Halo, pretty much. She's the personification of the grey area. Like, she is the personification